some changes. I personally, I think part of that's we have some resources here, including fossil fuel. We have to go after it, but also looking at new technologies and new things like biomass as an alternative as well. So I appreciate what you do.
I think it's also important, we're in a unique position here in Michigan having the big three auto companies here. And they have all indicated to us, I've had these conversations myself, how important renewable fuels technology is to them. And one of the big advantages we have is they'll be the ones who will be building the engines of the future and the powertrains of the future. And so, again, being able to drive 70 or 80 miles from where our campus is and talk to those who are thinking very hard about what the future vehicles are going to look like is an immense opportunity and advantage for us here in Michigan as well.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And speaking of economy, once again, I know that in the past the state has invested certain monies in areas of research with universities, and I understand that the federal government invests a lot as well. And sometimes we've been concerned that research is done for research's sake, but we want to see it really come to market and as quickly as we can get it there, because we need to produce more businesses and jobs. And so I would imagine that while this is a longer term journey for you folks at Michigan State and some of your partners, that's still an issue to get the appropriate research to market so that it can become a part of our lives and help build our economy.
Yeah, you've actually described part of my job at MSU because we have all of these very, very bright scientists, and they're driven by curiosity, they're driven by wanting to discover new information. Some of them are driven by a desire to answer problems and solve problems, but we need to connect those really bright folks and the discoveries that they can make in a more deliberate fashion with society's needs. And the renewable fuels bioeconomy is a perfect example of how we do that. I've been back at MSU for a little more than 3 years, and it's been very gratifying to see how our scientists and economists and others policymakers who can working on this area have really sort of stood up and addressed the challenge. And that's what a land-grant institution should do. That's the land-grant philosophy that we often talk about in institutions like Michigan State. But again, I want to say we've had excellent partnerships and relationships with the other institutions in the state, and again, I think that's what we ought to be doing. Absolutely. As state-supported, state-funded institutions.
Do you have, being at Michigan State, are there young people who are showing some interest in this field of bioeconomy?
Immense interest, actually. Young folks, you know, they're young. They have very open minds. They're very flexible. They're idealistic in many cases. I have 2 teenage sons myself, and they see this as a way to kind of change the world.
Oh, that's great.
And we all need to be encouraging that and offering opportunities. We involve students very much in what we do in the bioeconomy at Michigan State. We certainly need to do more of that, but we have people routinely, and I do myself, calling me up or emailing me and saying, I want an opportunity. Can I be involved in some way? Are there classes I can take? Is there a research project I can be involved with? I'm writing a paper and I need some help. And
that's great.
I mean, that's great. And that's the generation, really, back to your comments about, you know, long term. You and I will be the older folks 20 years from now. We'll pull up our wheelchairs and talk about this, and our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren are going to be the ones that see the benefit of our wise activities today.
Well, that's a very important point. Being wise with our resources today to help create a better tomorrow. What has happened in Michigan so far to promote the bioeconomy?
Well, we've certainly had a number of renewable fuel standards and goals that have been put into place. That has been very, very important. The state, through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, has provided incentives to a number of firms at of various sizes to locate in the state. There's a large firm called Muskoma, which had committed a little more than a year ago to build a large biorefinery in the state, in the eastern UP. We're working very much with them. These are very much the kind of things we want to have happen. There are some renaissance zones that provide inducements to firms as well. And then I would say the investment in the universities has allowed us, the base funding has allowed us to develop programs to address these issues. Now the hard part is everybody else trying to do the same thing.
Yes,
So
yes.
we can't sit back and lean on our laurels, but I really think we're in a particularly favorable position here in the state. And I'm very pleased. The support is bipartisan. It really is folks of all ways of looking at the world, political ways of looking at the world, coming together and saying, this is good for the state of Michigan, and so we're going to work together to make it happen.
That's great. Well, we're almost out of time, but Steve, if I could ask you to look down the road, maybe just briefly give me a couple of thoughts. If you would look down the road 2 decades from now, what would you envision relative to the bioeconomy?
Well, I would envision a transportation system, what we see as gas pumps today, as pumping a lot more liquids that are produced renewably. That's the first thing. And that's really where the rubber meets the road. We have to be able to make that happen. And then I would see a system that would be well developed to both produce the raw materials to make those fuels and the logistics and biorefining capacities in the state to make that industry work. I really do believe that it has the potential over that time frame. You've made the right time frame to really revolutionize our economy in the state, and we really need that.
Wonderful. Dr. Pueppke, I really appreciate you coming in and talking to us about a very important topic, bioeconomy, and that's something that we need to work on now, but it's for our future, and I appreciate the work you do there at Michigan State. Thank you very much to my audience for joining us, and please join us again from capital to community as we discuss other important issues, things that are important to us right here in West Michigan and across the state. Thank you. Have a great day.